Hello, welcome to another video. Today's video is going to be a little bit different in that I'm actually speaking. For those of you who don't like speaking, I ask that you just bear with me. For those of you who do, this video is right up your alley. There's a little bit too much detail, a little bit too many explanations that need to be said in order to make this a silent video. So I'm out here in the woods today, a park that I typically go to. And I discovered something that was pretty sad, but I'm going to take advantage of it. As you may have seen on my walk on the way in, they've been cutting down trees in this park that I come to every once in a while. I don't know the reason. I'm sure they have their reasons, but for me, it's something that's not necessary. In any of my crafts, I try to take wood that's already dead to make forks and spoons and cups and spatulas and whatever it is I want to make. And I don't take down live trees because they're disappearing. And the one that made me the most sad, I don't know if you can see it down there in the valley, is a beautiful white poplar. It had to be 100 feet high, 30 meters high. Absolutely beautiful. And I just don't understand the need to take it down. But I'm going to use it to my advantage and take a piece of it to show you how I found to be the most efficient way to make a kuksa, or a cup. Some people use wood that's already dry. Using wood that's green is easier to carve, but there are some idiosyncrasies, let's say, in drying it without it cracking. So I'm going to show you how I do that as well. Some of it's very bushcrafty, some of it's a bit not. But I'll get into that a little bit later. So now I just need to get down there and find the right size diameter to make a kuksa. For me, this is just sadness. Look how beautiful she was. Here next to it's another hardwood. I'm not sure exactly what it is. One of the main reasons that a kuksa, or a cup, splits in the drying process is most of the moisture is in this center area called the pith. So it's important that that part is not included when you begin to make your kuksa. So you want to find a piece of wood where the depth of the cup is about half the diameter, or excuse me, you want to find a piece that the depth of the cup is going to be from half of the diameter down to the base, not including the pith. That needs to be removed. This piece looks decent. I think we can get a good sized cup out of this. And then your length of the cup obviously is going to be this way. So let's use this piece and start cutting. Okay. So that was a lot of work from my Puukko Laplander and a lot of work for me. But we've got a nice piece of wood. And there's plenty of room below the pith to achieve the depth of the cup that I want. So let's take this back up. I'll split it, then I'll draw a design, and then I'll start carving. Okay, so this piece is a bit oblong. It's not completely round, so I'm going to take the part of it that'll give me the most depth. Obviously, my knife doesn't go all the way across, but so we'll have to do it in a couple of stages. Or maybe not. The TBS Grizzly. It is a beast. It's thick. It's almost a 1/4 inch thick. As you can see, it can do some big work. Okay, so we've removed the pith, which is here. So what happens is when wood is drying, this is the wettest part, and the moisture will try to escape from that more so than any other part. And as it goes through the other layers of wood, it'll tend to split the wood. And so that's why you need to get rid of that. It would be even better if you could remove even this little part of it here. But I have a kind of a trick to dry wood. I've tried many methods and none of them have worked other than the one I'm going to show you later on. But for now, let's get a design drawn and remove this bark. Also, wood will start to rot quicker with the bark on than with the bark off, so it's important to remove that as well. But decent piece of wood. I'm still sad that they cut the tree down, but I'm taking advantage of it to make a kuksa. As you can see, I've got my butt pad from Fjallraven next to my IL Royale Bushcraft backpack. It rained all day yesterday, so no need to sit on wet ground. Okay, so just a rough little drawing of what my mind's eye sees to be the cup and this piece of wood. I typically like to go with a little bit irregular shape instead of perfectly round. First of all, it's easier to draw. Secondly, for me it looks more natural. You want to pay attention to where a person's going to be drinking from. So for example, a right-handed person would hold the cup here, and so their mouth is typically going to go here. I also want to leave a little bit of room in the handle, not make it so narrow, because I plan on insetting a stone here in the finished product. So it doesn't have to be perfect for now. Just a general idea. I'm going to take away the biggest parts of wood possible with my axe, and then after that we'll go to the knife. And the hooked blade or the spoon knife. Okay, so we can take off these corners with the knife still. More of an accurate cut. It's better to have a flat base here. Okay, get the X. And we'll start removing as much as we can with the axe to save some work later. Some people say that you want to carve the middle before anything else. I disagree with that because, especially with the axe, the less impact you can put on a hollowed out piece of wood, the less likely you are going to be to split it. If you hollow it out and you've just got fractions of wood, you know, maybe half an inch or 2 centimeters around, everything else is hollowed in the middle, the more stress you put on it, whether it's cutting with your axe or cutting with your knife, the more likely it's going to be to split. And that's why sometimes people that use chisels have problems with splitting as well. The whole thing about making a kuksa or a cup or a glass or anything else is preventing it from splitting. So I wanted to show you the most recent kuksa I made from the same tree, from the same fallen poplar. So all in all, probably about 12 hours of work. Dry time is not extremely long, and I'll show you why later on. I've got the inset stone here. I wish I had some resin to fill in here. I actually mixed some sawdust with glue to fill in the gap here around this paracord place to hang it from, with a little carabiner here. It came out all right. Anytime you work on a craft, you always want to continue to improve, to get better every time, and that's what I'm going to be striving to do with this next one that I'll be making for my girlfriend. And I think for this I'm going to take off my, in Italian it's called a marsupial, like a kangaroo, marsupial. Marsupial. In English I forgot what it's called. Fanny pack from Frost River. It's the West Ender. I think I'm going to take that off to minimize the risk of damaging it, along with my knives. Okay. The knife I'll be using is the TBS Wolverine Puukko. Smaller knife than the Grizzly, which I had before. Razor sharp. Make sure I keep them all razor sharp. And I'll be using this, and also a hook knife by Morakniv to hollow out the middle. So let's get going. A bit at a time. It takes some time. This carving out the shape and hollowing out the bowl are the most time consuming. Obviously I won't keep you here the whole time, because it's just a lot of watching the same thing, but I'll check back in with you here and there. Capriole, or in English a roe deer, just ran through here. It's not the first time I've seen them here. Something must have frightened it. It wasn't me, because I'm quiet. But of course I wasn't filming at the time, as usual. But it was cool, very cool. Okay, so I've been working on it about an hour and a half. Got a long way to go, but I've got the basic shape. Need to round it more going down, and and obviously I've got quite a few curves that I need to work on. But I'm going to stop for the day, and now we've got this big chunk of very green, very heavy, wet wood. So how do you keep it from splitting in between sessions? Pretty easy. These rings are the most critical part, where wood will typically split. So as soon as I get home, I'm going to just take some wood glue and cover these parts. Cover all of this. I'm going to be able to cut it off later, and I'll be sanding this and all sorts of things. But just to keep it from splitting between sessions, just take any type of glue and cover it. You can use resin, shellac, whatever you want, but I think glue is probably the cheapest. So that's how you keep it from splitting, and I'll be back to continue working. Okay, and I'm back. I'm at the house today, and I apologize that not all of this is done in the woods. I'm an English teacher. I have classes every day during the week, including Saturdays, so my time out in the woods is limited. But this video is about making a kuksa, and an efficient way to do it, but also a traditional way. Traditionally, I'm not using any power tools. I'm using just knives. A bit later on, I'll be using a bit of technology when I go to dry the kuksa. But for now, I just want to emphasize that the joy is in the journey. So you can do all of it in the woods while you're carving, but it's not necessary. You can do some of it at home as well. I'm using what time I have and the opportunity I have to do this, and for me it's very relaxing, just sitting down and carving wood. So we're moving from the straight blade onto a hook knife. Here I've got the Maracniv spoon knife or hook knife, and before I actually start cutting the bowl out of the kuksa, what I'd like to do is clean up some of these curved edges here and here and here. That can be a little bit difficult when you're using a straight blade. So let's get back at it. I don't know if you noticed or not, but since this is from my girlfriend, it's going to be kind of in a heart shape. I think I'm gonna stop here, take a break. I've got some chores to do and a lesson to teach, and then when I come back I'll resume. As I mentioned before, but I hadn't shown you, your areas that are dangerous for splitting are these areas around where the pith was that are most prone for humidity to try to escape, and your crack will be there. So as you finish each session, just to be on the safe side, just put a little glue in the perilous areas for cracking. Don't need to put a lot, just a little film. And this still has glue from the last time, I believe. Let's get a little bit on there anyway. And I see a little line here where the pith was. I don't believe it's anything, but just to be on the safe side. So what this does is, it, instead of moisture trying to escape in these areas, it will just find another area to escape. So less, and as it escapes the other areas, it escapes more evenly instead of all at once. So that's it. Okay, I'll be back in a bit to continue my Kuksa. Okay, we've got some time to continue on here, so let's get going. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the depth. I don't want her drinking all the coffee and not leaving any for me, so I'm going to smoothen this up a little bit. I'll be sanding it later, but smooth out what I can, and then maybe work on this profile a little bit so I don't have as much wood in between the inside and the outside here. Round it off a little bit. And I'll show you what it looks like in a bit. Okay, we've roughly got it done. Now, to dry it. So I've heard a lot of different ways of drying green wood, obviously on YouTube. Some people just put it out in a shed and let it sit for about 3 months. Some people put it in a cabinet or in a basement and just let it sit. Some people put different types of, I don't know what it's called, resin or shellac on it to keep it from splitting and let it sit. There was a method I thought I'd try where you put it in a box that's full of paper towels. You wrap it in paper towels, you put it in a box, and also fill the box with paper towels, and as the moisture escapes, it gets absorbed by the paper towels or the toilet paper, and you continue to change the paper towels and toilet paper. And you do that for, I don't know, weeks, months, until it dries. But you know, it all depends on your ambient temperature and also the ambient humidity. So when I tried that with the box and the paper towels, within just a couple of days I had mold growing in the wood, and I had to actually throw it away because it's really difficult to get mold out unless you soak it in bleach or something like that, which you don't want to do with something you'll be drinking out of. So what I do, I put it in the microwave at the beginning for about 1 minute and 20 seconds, and then let it sit until it cools down. Put it in for another 1 minute and 20, let it sit half an hour or an hour until it cools down again. Because what you don't want to do is go 2 minutes or more and actually start burning the wood on the inside. And probably do that 10 or 11 times. And what I do is I take notes every time I put it in the microwave as to how much it weighed before it went in and how much it weighed after the next time, before the next time I put it in. And for example, the last one I did went from in 11 different sessions in the microwave, went from 392 grams down to 230. So it lost about, well, I don't know, 30% of its weight in water. And this method works. I'm still going to put glue in the dangerous places so that when the water cooks out, it'll be coming out of these places that are less dangerous to cause splitting. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go throw it in the microwave for 1 minute and 20 seconds, and then I'll be back. So this is obviously the part of the process that is not very bushcrafty. Obviously, I'm using a microwave to dry it, but it works. It saves weeks, if not months, of time drying. So the first time I put it in, 530 grams, and I put it in for 1 minute and 15 seconds. Now I'll wait a half an hour, put it in again, excuse me, weigh it again, and then put it in the microwave again for another 1 minute and 15 seconds. And after 10 or 11 times, it should stop losing weight, and at that point, it can be sanded. Okay, that part's finished. So we started at 530 grams. After 11 times in the microwave, it went down to 350. I microwaved it again at the 12th time, and it didn't go down at all. So at that point, I know that it's dry. Overall, a 33% loss in moisture weight. So it works. Now what I'm going to do is, before I sand it, I'm actually going to take a small pocket knife. It's a very fine fine blade, and actually scrape the rough parts. Any place there are, you know, angles or places where I cut where it's not smooth, I'm going to go around the whole thing and scrape it down. I'm going to start out with 120 grit, and we'll go up from there. Okay, so I went up to 600 grit sandpaper. I didn't see that there was any need to bore you watching me sanding. So here's the finished heart Kuksa. It's not perfect, but it's okay. I'm going to treat it now, and I'll show you what I'm going to use. This is a wood treatment that I made. It's basically it's beeswax and hemp oil, obviously melted together. And it makes this kind of green looking treatment for wood. It works very well because soaks into the wood because it's a bit oily, but there's wax in it. So after it soaks into the wood, it actually protects the wood very well and makes it waterproof as well. So let's get that going. We'll start on the bottom here. So what I'll do is I'll put on a coat. I'll let it sit and dry, probably on a heater during the night. In the winter that works well. In the summertime you can just put it in the sun. As you can see, it doesn't change the color too much, but it does make it, as it dries, it does make it just a little bit richer. Oh, I've got a friend. Hi, friend. This is one of one of 3 cats that we have, but one of 2 cats. We got him from a rescue shelter, and then we discovered that he had a brother. And after a couple days, we went back and we got his brother because we didn't think they should be separated. I can show you both of them real quickly. Coco and Kucky. Don't ask me about the names. They weren't my choice. Okay, we've got the first coat on, and I'll put it near a heater overnight. Let all of that soak in. And then tomorrow I'll put on another coat, let it soak in. Maybe the same day, get a 3rd coat on, let it soak in. And eventually I'll get around to showing you how we christen a Kuksa. But for now, there she is. So as the wood is absorbing the oil and wax, I'm going to add a little addition here. My girlfriend chose blue stones, and 4 of them because she has 4 children. So I'm going to carve out some spaces for these blue stones and then just basically glue them into the wood. Okay, we've got our finished product. And you see a bottle of alcohol there. It's only 10 minutes before 8 in the morning, so this is not my typical habit. Because it's a bit early in the morning for alcohol. Typically, Kuksas are made by the Sami people in northern Scandinavia. And they're typically made from the burl of a birch bark tree. So it's kind of a cancerous knot that grows on the side of the birch trees. And it's used because the grain goes in all different directions, and there's a much less likelihood of it splitting. The way I've done it, taking it from a straight piece of a trunk of a tree, works the way I've done it. It's not traditional, but birch burl is very hard to find, considering we don't have wild birch trees growing in our area. And often when you find them, they're pretty high up in the tree and difficult to get to. So if I ever come across a birch burl, I probably will take it off the tree. It doesn't hurt the tree to take it off and use it for a new Kuksa. This is a way to do it that is something anybody can do. I think it's obvious from my carvings that I'm not an artisan. I'm not a skilled craftsman in any way. I'm just a guy who likes to hang out in the woods. But that just goes to show you that if I can do it, anybody can do it. So now the christening. So you take, this is brandy. You take the alcohol of your choice. Some people use cognac. But you can use any type of alcohol that you want. So as the tradition goes, you pour a shot. You pour it in your Kuksa. And you swirl it all around. And you try to get it up to every part, every lip, every edge of the Kuksa. And then you let that sit a few minutes. Then you drink it. And then you do the process again. And you drink that. And then you fill it with a very, very strong coffee. And I typically include the grounds. And you let that sit overnight. And it seasons the wood, which I don't know how much it seasons it, considering that I've already oiled this and it's soaked in. But I maintain the tradition all the same. And you let it sit overnight, and then you make another batch of very, very strong coffee, and you put it in the Kuksa, and then you drink it. And at that point, your Kuksa is seasoned. Now, I'm not going to drink this because it's too early in the morning, but I'll let it sit just a little bit, and then I'll toss it out. I'll do it again, toss it out, and then I'll bring you back with me when I add the coffee. And I might as well enjoy a cup of freshly brewed coffee myself. With my typical condiments of a bit of salt, chili powder, and honey. Don't knock it until you've tried it. Okay, alcohol stage finished. Now we're going to add coffee. not only do I want to add coffee, but I also want to to add the grounds, just to make it stronger and release more of the oils that are in coffee. See if I can do this without making a disaster. Not too bad so far. Okay. Fill it up to the brim. And now I'm going to let this sit overnight at least. So, and tomorrow it should be good to go. So there's how to make a kuksa with just a regular piece of green wood, how to dry it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So I urge all of you to get out there and try it. Don't be afraid. Enjoy the journey. And if you decide to make one, post your comments below and let me know how it went. Thanks for watching, everybody.